Okay, thank you, Aqeel. First of all, I'd like to encourage all the participants to forward their questions to the chat box for questions and answer time after the presentation. And if you would like further information, please feel free to email educationsuccessinfo@gmail.com. Okay, let's start with our first industry expert. His name is Mr. Peter Simpson. He founded his management consulting company, Organisation Technology, in 1985. He was in the vanguard of the quality improvement movement during the early 1980s as a process development officer for a division of Coca-Cola Amatil. Using statistical methods and an analysis of production processes and their management, his recommendations resulted in savings of millions of dollars. In 1985, Peter Simpson was the internal consultant at Kodak Australia. Peter twice won the International Kodak Quality Award for assisting Kodak Australia to improve from the most inefficient plant in all of Kodak worldwide to the most efficient, and for reducing production costs by $40 million. Some of Mr. Simpson's other accomplishments include helping a subsidiary of Texas Utilities grow from 400 employees and 35 million in sales to 1,400 employees and 250 million in sales within 2 years. He also enabled Benchtel Pacific's $1 million, 3,500 employees aluminium smelter project in Queensland to finish 6 months early and 100 million under budget. Mr. Simpson has also assisted hundreds of small and medium-sized companies achieve great profits and growth through improved management and organisation. Organisation Technology has clients in city and country locations around Australia, as well as Taiwan, New Zealand, USA, Indonesia, India, China, Japan, an affiliated office in Milan, Italy, and several licensed consultants in Taiwan. Mr. Simpson has a science degree from Monash University. He has studied business and management systems extensively in Australia and the USA. Over his long career, Peter Simpson has helped to create or save thousands of jobs, delivered seminars and workshops to tens of thousands of individuals, and created $2 million of savings and increased income for his clients. Let us give a very warm welcome to Peter Simpson.
Thank you, Maria. Just one little correction. It's 2 billion. There's a B there that I've achieved.
Sorry, Peter.
That's all right. It's only out by a factor of 1 million. That's good.
That's true. I'll leave it to you now.
All righty. So I was asked to help people who are having problems in their businesses during this COVID shutdown. And my specialty is in planning. And certainly at this point in time, that's essential. The first step is to have a plan, always. And I'm now going to show you what that's all about. So I'm just going to click a few buttons. There we go. So you should be able to see a presentation there. Can you all see that? Please nod if you can see a presentation. Very good, thanks. Okay. I'll make it nice and big now. There we go. So the material that you're about to see, most of it is contained in, is based on the researches and discoveries of American author and philosopher L. Ron Hubbard. And his works form the basis of most of what I deliver globally. Important note, all entries in this presentation from the works of Mr. Hubbard will be displayed in this font, the cursive font. All other entries will be displayed in the other font. It's not man's dreams that fail him. It's his lack of know-how required to make those dreams real. So it's easy to have a dream. It's tough to make it come true. How getting organised helps you to achieve your goals. The Dominican University of USA completed a study on goal achievement in the workplace. This project looked at how goal attainment is influenced by writing goals, committing to the steps needed to achieve the goals, and accountability to do the steps needed. Participants in Matthew's study were randomly assigned to one of 5 groups. Group 1 was asked to simply think about the business-related goals they hoped to achieve. And by the way, that's about as far as most people get. They think about a goal. Groups 2 to 5 were asked to write their goals. Group 3 was also asked to write out the steps needed to achieve each goal. Group 4 had to both write their goals and the steps needed to achieve them, and also give a commitment to do the steps to a friend. Group 5 went the furthest by doing all of the above, plus sending a weekly report, progress report, to a friend. And here's the results. You can see there on the left that the percent of goals achieved by people who just thought about them was only slightly better than 40%. Written goals increased it hugely to 60%. The next step, where they've written out the steps as well, is kind of a bit odd. I think it might be just a bit of a oddity in the results. The next one, if they commit to a friend, it goes even higher. And if they do all those steps and send a progress report to the friend, the probability that a goal will be achieved is almost 80%. In fact, it's almost double just thinking about it. So what this means is if you just think about a goal, it probably won't happen. If you also write it down, work out the steps to achieve it, commit to a friend, and report progress to a friend, it almost certainly will happen. So this gives you some idea of what's required if you want your plans and goals to happen. Now, there's 2 kinds of plans, and this affects the business owner very, very much. There's the plan for you. What do you want in your life? And then there's the plan you might have for the business. People often have a plan for their business or their career, but they seldom have a worked out plan for their life. And what happens is, if you work on something and you have a plan and you work at it, it tends to happen. If you have no plan, things don't happen. So the business owner finds that if he does have some kind of a plan or some kind of attention, and he works on that for his business and works on that for his business, but he doesn't have one for himself, I'll show you what happens. The business or the career, in fact, grows. The business owner, without any kind of plan, either stays the same or even shrinks. Now you have a smaller thing trying to control a bigger thing. You can see what's going to win. Now we have the business telling the business owner what to do, which is the wrong way around. It's also much harder for the business owner to control it because he's quite small relative to it. It should look more like this, where the business is just really a small part of his life or her life. And if it is like that, he'll be able to control it, or she'll be able to control it, and it'll do far, far better than if it looks like this. And if there still isn't something done about it and time goes on, here's what happens. The business owner ceases to be. He only is a business, or he only is the CEO or the manager. He talks to his kids as though they were employees. He talks to his wife as though she's the secretary. You go out to dinner with him and all he can talk about is work, work, work and business. He has no other interests. As a person, he's kind of gone and it's pretty boring. So you can see having a plan for yourself is most important. And from that, we can develop a career plan that supports the personal plan. This is tremendously important. And there we are. Begin with a personal plan. Oops. With any activity or company, what is the desired product that will also be desired by others is the first question one asks in organising. It must be answered before you can adjust or arrange finance or do any organising. So what are you going to produce? This is the first question to be answered. And it must be something that others would also want. So you need to want to produce it, and others must also want it. And unless you get that right, the business is unlikely to be successful. So we have some examples here. Product: profitably sold delicious food served in our own restaurants. This is the product. Or perfectly and profitably repaired and maintained cars. And if the business and the business owner keeps their attention on that, things go well. Attention must be on the product or the service you produce and deliver to your customers. All planning must be based on producing a desired product or service. Only this assures growth and continued income. It also provides pride, satisfaction, and happiness for the owner and the staff. When customers come into a happy business that provides great products and good service, they come back and they tell others. Thus, growth is assured. Planning that is based upon what the owner will receive from their customers, money, is bad planning. It is also not the way to enjoy personal happiness. Customers know when a business operates on a plan of, I want to make lots of money from you. They don't feel they will receive good value or that they will be cared for. So customers stay away and tell their friends. Some businesses try to fake good service with a false smile or a standard extra. You can't fake it. People know. Any business that starts with a main purpose of making money will fail. And unfortunately, probably 80 or 90% of all businesses start solely with the purpose of making money. Therefore, it's all about the business owner and not about the customer. This guarantees lack of success. Highly successful businesses have a purpose to deliver something the owner has a passion to produce and is something that customers also want. These businesses get their reward from seeing their customers appreciate their service or goods. Payment for the goods or services is desired, of course, but that's not the owner's or the business's true purpose. It's not surprising that these businesses do make lots of money and for a very long time. It's strange, but if you don't have your attention on the money at all, but entirely on delivering a good service or product, the end result is lots of money. Here's an example. This is a client of mine. They're based in Japan, in Tokyo, and they're a hamburger chain. And their name is Brothers. But Japanese can't say brothers, so in Japan it's Brothers. And that's their label, Brothers, but that's Brothers. By the way, the owner in his 20s, which is a bit over 20 years ago, learned how to make hamburgers in a hamburger shop in Sydney, Australia. And he took this idea to Japan. He fell in love with hamburgers. And he set a goal to be a leading, long-established company in the gourmet burger industry. And he'd been going a few years when I met with him and really polished this up into a full plan. Brothers began in 2000, and the following points were established in April 2003. I sat with him for a few days and we put together a complete plan. And this is just a few parts of it. Brothers Burgers and Spirit. Create hamburgers with such charm. They are fused with the attitude, seriousness, and craftsmanship of manufacturing, which is also a culture unique to Japan. Make it boldly with attention to detail. That is the Brothers Hamburgers. By the way, the owner spent over a year finding the best maker of hamburger buns. And this person made bread and didn't want to make hamburger buns. It took the owner over a year to secure a supply. All the meat is Australian beef, because Japanese believe that's the best in the world. And of course, we know they're correct. Brothers management philosophy. Work hard with love and actively contribute to the community and society so that we can create joy and excitement for our customers. Be bright, honest, straightforward, courageous, and pursue what is right as an individual and what is right for the company. Take the courage to lead and set a good example for the development of the gourmet burger industry. Overcome all difficulties with love and courage, and the individual and the company will continue to grow and survive. Please note there's nothing there that says make lots of money. The results. Brothers is the most awarded hamburger restaurant in Japan. It's listed as Japan's best hamburgers in most Japanese food guides. By the way, it's several times won TV shows. Japanese are crazy for food TV shows, and several times won best hamburger in all Japan. And at lunchtime, and I've been there, customers line up around the block waiting to get their hamburgers. And note, Brothers burgers are not cheap. They're 18 Australian dollars and more. The cheapest you can get is $18. and they sell thousands and thousands. Growth of Brothers has been more than 20% per year for the last 20 years. In year 2000, they had 1 restaurant, and now in 2020, they have 4 wholly owned restaurants, 20 independent ones. It's semi-franchised. 2 home delivery factories. So they have quite large production lines that produce home delivery orders. And they also have a training school for all their employees. They've got a 5-story high building, which is their training academy for all of their workers. And the owner, he's the founder of Brothers. He donates to charities and social betterment activities. He assists college students with their studies and also helps to pay for that. Many of his workers are college students. He sponsors local civic activities such as cleaning days, where all his employees clean local streets and parks. And he delivers public speeches on his business success and management philosophy. He's passionate about his burgers. He's crazy. All the meat is cut by hand with 2 knives. There's no grinding the meat. And so on. These are burgers of perfection. And at the end of all that, he's a very wealthy man and has time for a lot of other civic interests. And here's a local example, really, of service. This arrived as an email to me about a week ago. It's from the car service place that looks after my car. And you can see there it was founded in 1968 and it's been going for 52 years of Jaguar service and spare parts. And here's what they sent to me as an email. They offer contactless service, including local pickup and delivery of your vehicles. So I can call them, they'll pick up my car, service it and bring it back. Or they can give me a disinfected courtesy car to drive there and come back. And it's all set up like this. And this is real service. Between myself, my wife, my son, his wife, we have 4 cars. This is the only service centre that sent an email like this. We have a Japanese car, a BMW, and also another Mazda, another Japanese car. And my car, only this company sent this. And they've been going for 52 years. It kind of tells you something. And by the way, they're not expensive. They're not cheap, but they're not expensive. And finally, in 1960, 1,500 US business school graduates were surveyed. Category A graduates said they wanted to make money first, then do what they really wanted to do later. And that was 1,245 graduates, or 83% of those surveyed. Category B graduates said they wanted to pursue their true interests, sure that money would eventually follow. And that was 255 graduates, or 17% of those surveyed. So you get that? Most on graduation just wanted to make lots of money and then they could relax and be happy. And a much smaller percentage says, we'll just do what we love and we'll probably make money. 20 years later, in 1980, there were 101 millionaires in that group of 1,500 business students. Among category Category A graduates, the large group of those who wanted to make money first and enjoy life, there was just one millionaire. Among Category B graduates, the smaller group who pursued their true interests, there were 100 millionaires. Note, this was in 1980, that's 3.5 million in today's money. This means that from a similar starting point, those who follow their true interests in life are 100 times more likely to be wealthy than those who desire only to make money. And this tells you a lot about planning and a lot about business. And in all my years, I find that those who love what they do and are passionate about it and put that first, usually are very successful, very happy, have time for their kids and other things, and by the way, make a lot of money. So that's all I have to tell you tonight. And from Mr. Hubbard and from me, thank you very much. Back to you, Aqeel.
Thank you, Peter. That was very informative, and especially the surveys you have shared. I was really surprised that only one person was millionaire, and out of category B, 100 were millionaire. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for that.
It is a surprising piece of data, yes, Aqeel, but that's true research.
And now I give mic to Maria, and she will introduce our second industry expert, Oisín Grogan.
Yes.
Maria, back to you.
Okay, back to me. Okay, one moment. Sorry, Sheen. Here we go. Thank you so much, Aqeel. Our next industry expert is Mr. Oisín Grogan. Oisín Grogan, also known as the 200 million business coach. He is an entrepreneur, international consultant and speaker. Oisín knows what it is like to have debts, lack of sales and difficult staff. All of the challenges that you face as a business owner, he has personally experienced, but more importantly, all of these difficulties he has managed to conquer. Oisín founded Executive Success in 2008 after running a number of successful businesses in the service, manufacturing, property and consulting industries. Since then, he has consulted businesses in over 50 industries, ranging from startups to public companies with turnovers in the hundreds of millions, and has a unique track record of being able to grow and streamline all types of businesses. Oisín has added over $500 million plus in growth to his clients. Results include in these various industries, for example, in the finance company, number of loans settled increased by 4 times in 7 months. Also, in a manufacturing company, new sales increased from 2 million to 22 million in 12 months. And again, in the property investment company, monthly sales increased from 180,000 to 1,920,000. Also in a retail company, monthly sales increased from 660,000 to 1.25 million in 4 months. Again, in a property investment company, property sales increased from 5 per month to 35 per month in 6 months. And also, finally, a mortgage broker's 500% growth in revenue over 2 years while only doubling staff to produce this. Let us give a very warm welcome to Mr. Oisín Grogan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me just get the screen set up now. All righty. Cool. So that was lovely. Okay, good. So I'm just going to cover quickly some key points on how to grow your sales. And I'm going to also, we don't have a lot of time. So just like Peter, I'm going to touch on just a very fundamental part that has got to be in place for any growth or any, even if you're struggling in business or you're going okay and you want to take it to the next level. So this is what we're going to cover. And when I do presentations like this, I like to have it so people can take away something they can do. So if you do have pen and paper around, just get it handy. I may ask you to note down some things and look at your life or your career. All right, cool. We've been over me. That's my family, by the way. I've got kids and stuff. So I've had a good life using this, this management system that Peter has introduced. Covered that. All right, good. So let's cover the success mindset. It starts with you, of course. And Peter's presentation actually showed this. So we're assuming that you have some sort of desire to do something, something that you love, something that you're really interested in that benefits others. So when you're trying to grow your business or to get staff to help you on a project, there's an element of sales or closing. And that's really what I'm going to address, that it starts with you. So, you know, when you're trying to start a business, there's many people you've got to close, right? There's well, potential customers. There might be a landlord if you need a premises. It might be you've got to get staff. Well, hopefully you're not closing them, you're hiring them. But you get the idea. You might have to close your wife or your husband on staying late and getting something done. There's many aspects to that, right? So it's pretty clear that people who are good at getting their communication across are more successful. All right, and if you've got kids, you know it takes sales skill, right, to get them to bed on time, and closing mastery to get them to clean up after themselves. If you can get kids to do that, you're very good. All right, so let's look at this, and this influences many areas of a business or a life, actually. So if you're having trouble selling your products or your services for what they're worth, or you find you have to discount, or you think you need to get cheaper or something, or you're finding it hard just to get people to buy your ideas, like let's say you're trying to get a project over the line at work, if you're not a business owner, it starts with you. So let's have a look at how this works. All right. So before I move on, I just want to. So who here? I can see you all. Who here has to do some sort of selling or closing during their day? Right? Is that real to you? There's always someone or something you've got to close. True? There is a saying, life is sales. You know, it's definitely a big part of it, right? You've even got to close yourself to get out of bed sometimes, right? You know, it's cold, and so there's always some element of getting that idea across and getting it to stick. Okay, so let's move on. Alrighty. So if you want to close anyone on any idea, what do you got to have? Belief. So you've got to believe in the idea. Otherwise, you're going to be full of, you're not going to be sincere, and your ability to close and get people to do what you want and to achieve your goals will be lower, 100% lower. You've got to be genuine. So you've got to believe in what you're doing. You've got to have conviction. So not only do you have to have a belief in the idea, you've really got to believe it. And then you need clarity. And that's one of the things that this COVID-19 period is produced, unfortunately, is not clarity, right? Things were running a certain way. It was somewhat predictable. We kind of knew roughly what was going to happen, and that's being all thrown out the door. So now people are lacking a lot of clarity. And maybe you had ideas or beliefs and you were certain of them, now you're not sure. So we've got to fix this. So you've got to have belief, conviction, and clarity on what you're communicating and what you're doing, which also Peter covered very nicely. All right, so let's look at the other side then. So what's the point of failure? It's the opposite, right? So we've got doubts, uncertainty, and like your own questions, like what do I do next? What's going to happen next? What's the government going to do? All this is killing your ability to sell and succeed if you don't handle it. All right, so little quick survey. Who here's had an uncertainty in the last 6 months? You know, anyone had some doubts about what was going to happen, about, you know, whether your business was going to go all right, or what's going to happen with your career or your money? Yeah, all right. Yeah, so your ability to handle yourself, so you have a straight, clear line and a clear idea and a clear direction and all that, this determines your success, not the premier, not the economy. Now, yes, they are messing things up. Like, there's no doubt that some silly things are happening, right? There's no doubt. That's like there's a storm, you know, in a storm. Well, everyone's having the storm. But I tell you what, some people are making very good money and doing very well still, right? Do you know someone? I do. I'm sure you don't know people. I know people who are not doing very well. So there's a couple of factors in this. And the first one is you and your certainty. Okay, and then the second is obviously the know how to execute things. So that's partially why we're putting these on. All right, so let's move on. So anything that's any doubts, uncertainties, questions, or, you know, where you don't know quite what to do, these are things that you have to make top priority to handle. All right. So let's look at how this affects just selling. This is more about like selling, but it could be anything. It could be executing a business plan as well. If you have uncertainties around price, you'll have prospects telling you it costs too much. Yep. If you're not sure it's the best deal, like your product or service, or you, let's say you're trying to get employed, if you're not sure you're the best, you'll get people telling you, oh, we can't give you a job. If you're not sure that your company is the best or is delivering a great product or service, you'll get people shopping. If you don't believe in your products or services, neither will your customers. Kind of pretty interesting, isn't it? And your staff won't work as hard for you. And if you think no one has any money, well, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Everyone you talk to will have no money. And then what will happen is they'll go to your competitor and then they'll give their money to someone who thinks people have got money. And if you think your prices are too high, so will your prospects. And if you think the economy, yeah, all right, fill in the gaps, right? So, is that real? Is that real? Have you experienced something like that, you know, where you've got the doubt and then somehow it just happens to come to you anyway, you know, like, yeah, like, yeah, okay, very good. Good, all right, cool. Well, let's roll on. And I'm going to show you exactly how what causes this right now and how to fix it very quickly. I'll give you a couple of things you can do. All right, so, but firstly is like, how do you lose your certainty, right? Because normally when you start a career or a business, you're pretty pumped, right? So, you know, and you might not, you'll be pumped and that'll get you through, right? Sheer enthusiasm, or you're a young fella giving it a go. That's what I was like when I started my cleaning business. That was my first business. And, you know, if you think I look young now, you can imagine what I looked like when I was actually 18. Man, I looked like I was like 12. So I used to turn up in a suit and people would give me a go because I was, you know, young and enthusiastic. Anyway, but what happened over a couple of years is I got to a point where I was very certain. I actually knew very well pricing and my service was good and all that. So this happens to lots of people. It's how lots of things get started. So your certainty will cut through barriers and people will just know that what you're saying is the right thing to do. They'll just buy your services or hire you or whatever it is. They just buy. But what happens is over time, get a few losses, maybe a few bad deals, maybe a refund or two. They're never pleasant. Few upsets, maybe you get sued, whatever. Things can happen that you didn't expect and you can lose confidence a little bit or a lot. And if you don't handle these properly, you go from being all excited and all pumped to one of those, you know, grumpy, I have a business, why doesn't someone just, you know, you get the idea. Now, here's the other cause of it. News. That's maybe, you might not notice it, but reading newspapers, watching the news, has anyone ever noticed that it's pretty much always bad? Anyone noticed? Yeah, yeah, good. So why do people insist on constantly watching it every day? I don't know why. I remember my grandma once, I was telling her this. I'm going, why do you watch the news? She goes, oh, well, I've got to be informed. I'm going, okay, informed of what? Bad news? I mean, it's like you're not getting news about anything you can do anything about 95% of the time. It's just this, that, you know, murder, death, mayhem, and even the words they use are hilarious if you step back and have a look at it. It's ridiculous. And people pay to actually get, you know, spiritually and mentally whacked in the face constantly every day. So what happens? And I saw this in the global financial crisis as well, you know, that big marketing campaign that was done about 12 years ago. The news and the media was selling everyone that there was a problem, that there was a downturn. And I saw it. Business owners bought it, and that's the point where the business started crashing. You see, it starts, if you buy it, then you project it. So this is the mindset. So you right now, it's very important. Yes, there's bad things happening. I'm not saying that. Yes, we have to make corrections, but you can't buy someone else's sale. There's a sale going on right now from the media, and it's the, you know, whatever. I'm not actually going to forward it. You get the idea? So it's really, really important that you just start cutting that off, because you'll feel better. Just try it out, right? Okay. All right. Enough of that. All right, cool. So yeah. So by the way, I did persuade my grandma to stop watching the news for a week, and she felt a lot better. She stopped locking the door every time she came in the house. You know, she was quite cheerful. She went from being scared to being cheerful. Yeah. Here's a funny quote from Thomas Jefferson. I think he was the third president of the US. Nothing can now be believed which is seen in a newspaper. Truth itself becomes suspicious by being put into that polluted vehicle. And guys, this was in 1807. This is 220 something years ago. I don't think it's got any better. All right, and here's one last quote on this. The advertisement is the most truthful part of a newspaper, Thomas Jefferson. So that's pretty funny, because most people think ads are lies, right? Anyway, so they've been like this for a long time. And here's the other source of it: toxic people. So if you've got someone in your environment spreading, you know, giving you bad news all day long, you need to get them out. It won't help your business success or your career. All right, cool. So last point we're going to cover. This is from L. Ron Hubbard, the Hubbard Management System, and this gives you the solution. This is the definition of communication, by the way. The interchange of ideas across space. Okay, so how does it go? I'm going to get my whiteboard out, and I'll just show you how you can clean this up. Hold on. There we go. Issue with my whiteboard here. Here we go. There it is. All right, cool. So here's you, because you may have noticed, you know, you sometimes go to get a job or do a sales pitch, and you go in and you've got your whole script ready, you know. You've worked out exactly what you're going to say. You know, it's all worked out. And then you go in and you say the most perfect pitch to someone that goes right in their ear, and so on. But did you notice the definition of communication? It's the interchange of ideas across space. It didn't say words. So this is actually what true communication is. I ask you to look at it for yourself. So let's just say your idea is this square. It doesn't really matter what it is. Could be that they should buy something off you, or that your houses are the best, or whatever. Anyway, but let's say for some reason, you know, the last 3 days you've had people saying no to you a lot. And then someone's ripped you off and you're feeling a bit sour about something, and maybe there was a complaint from a customer. So you've got this little doubt here about your product. So then, because the definition of communication is ideas going across space, this is what happens. So of course, you say all the right things, but you actually transmit your idea completely, very well, in fact. So they get all of that, but unfortunately, they get this too. So where do you think your prospect or whoever you're trying to get to do whatever you're trying to get to do, where do you think their attention goes? Of course it goes there. Right there. And then what do they ask you about? The very thing, the last thing that you want to talk about. All right? Okay. Have you experienced this, right? Yeah. It's like, why? Why do they always ask me the very thing I don't want to talk about? Okay, so what do you do about it? And this works for selling, presenting, handling your staff, everything. All right? So if you're thinking of any things you need to tidy up in your career or in your business, write them down, because that's what I encourage you to do. After this is tidy it up, get those doubts and out of the way, and we're good. So what do? I'll go back to my whiteboard, and I've done this with people and staff and all sorts of things. All you have to do is we find out, well, what are you running into? What are the things you can't handle in your prospects or in your customers or whatever? And we find out it's this. So of course, using various methods, we handle that. So of course, the next time you go to sell it, happy days. So there you go. So that's very, very simply the handling. We've got to eliminate those doubts, uncertainties before. Okay. All right. So let's go through this. So we've covered that. So what I normally do is I sit down with the owner or salesperson or anyone I'm helping, find out about their product or service. So if you don't have a business, just look at it from your career. You know, then this is more related to selling, but why is it priced the way it is? Like I have to often close a business owner on their pricing because they're trying to discount or something like that. So why is it priced the way it is? Why does it cost that much? Why is it valuable? Why should your customer buy from you and not your competitors? What care is put into the delivery? Why should people come to your shop? I mean, the list goes on, but you get the idea, right? Let's get the person really closed on why it's awesome. Why should people buy from you? Why? Because you can't sell what you don't believe in. So I close the close. I'm just going to skip through. So I work out handlings for these things. So if you've got an uncertainty, you've got to make it a certainty. So let's say, just to give a real simple example, someone has a restaurant and, you know, they've had some issues with getting people in. Well, I'd be going, well, what are they? And you find out maybe, I'm just making this up right now, but maybe they have attention on how clean or how their restaurant looks at the front. So what do you think we'd do? It's like, what don't you like about it? Well, it's a bit dark. Okay, so let's fix the lighting. So you fix the lighting and you get it to clean, you know, and and then all of a sudden they're certain now. And then of course, when they start marketing, they're more certain. You get the idea, right? It flows through everything. When you're directing your staff now, they're, oh, wow, this is looking better. Oh, cool. And you clean your shirt before, you know, you get the idea. So it's so important for you to close yourself and tidy up those things. And let's use a friend. I'll give you the last few slides and then we'll wrap it up. But you get the concept, right? Is you got to run through and clean them up. So if you're doing selling, I would just work out all the possible questions and make sure I'm really certain and have no doubts on the answers. You can do the same in every area of your business, as I've covered, and then do it with your staff. You know, if your staff aren't certain about how to handle customer inquiries, they're going to muck them up. So there you go. So here's the action items, the takeaways, guys. Note down any items where you have doubts or uncertainties in your career, your business, and then work out how you're going to handle them. Might be that you need to get a little bit of training, a little bit of talk with a friend, you know, you get the idea. All right, good. That's all from me. Thank you. There's my details if you want to contact me later. Otherwise, go through Maria. Okay, very good. That's all from me.
Thank you, Oisín. Thank you very much. That was very wonderful. And we also learned a hidden talent from you. You are also an artist.
I'm more of a musician, mate. But
oh, musician. That's great. That's
yeah.
great. Okay. Now we come to the next part of our presentation, which is questions. and we have compiled few best questions, and Maria will be asking those questions. After that, participants will get a chance to ask the questions. Over to Maria.
Okay, thank you, Aqeel. I'm just looking at the chat box at the moment. We've got a question for Oisín from Lucas, one of our participants, and he says, how have you managed to get past the lack of clarity during this time of COVID-19?
Okay, that's a good question. Right. Well, I think Peter answered it in one way, which is I do have very, very clear goals and purposes. Can you see me? I'm just...
Yes.
You can see me. Okay, good. Okay, great. So that's the first thing. I do exactly what Peter said. I have a plan. I have a plan for my life and all areas of my life. I have a plan for my family. I have a plan for my businesses. In fact, the ventures and businesses that I take on have to be a certain criteria, so I'm still going in the same direction. So that's one thing. I do have clear plans, and I do break them down into targets. I do exactly what he said. So nothing really changed much. You see, I'm still going over there, and I view this period as a storm, as I mentioned. So you might have to shift gears or change direction briefly, but it doesn't change my overall course. So that's the short answer to that, is that there's always opportunities. I've got to say, there's always opportunities. And some people get into the thing of the world's going to end and this and that. You know, it happens when, especially when they watch a lot of media. There's still, like, if we look at Victoria, there's still 5 million or 6 million people in Victoria. There's still people with money. There's still people buying things constantly. Like, you don't have to shift gears much just to get a piece of that. So, you know, people just need to get off the media and get on with a plan, service and customers. They'll do much better. So there you go. That's a short answer.
Fantastic, Oisín. That sounds like a brilliant idea. Okay, now I've got another question for Peter. And it is basically, how does your kind of planning differ from a business plan that many accountants often create for their clients? Peter, if you can answer that one.
Accountants really are only interested in...
You just unmuted you, mate. We missed the start of that.
I missed... Oh, okay, I'll start from the start. I said it's a question I often get asked, as a matter of fact. But accountants really are only interested in the money side of it. They do a lovely plan of how much money you need in order to do something and how much money you're going to get back. And they look at cash flows and they do a big prediction this way, and all it's very, very impressive. But it doesn't tell you what to do. There's nothing in it that says you do this and then you do this and then you do this and then you do this and you'll get a result. Mostly it's a presentation to take to a bank so you can borrow money. And plans that begin with, I will borrow money, usually are a bad plan. Maybe you need to borrow something somewhere sometime, but when it starts with that, you're off to a bad start. So no, very, very different. With the planning that I propose, it's all about what is the product, how can that be produced in abundance, and how that can lead to the attainment of the person's personal goals and the goal they have for the company. Very, very different. That's all.
Okay, thanks for that, Peter. I've got another question. Either gentleman can answer these, but in your experience, how many businesses have the right idea and concentrate on delivering a great product or service rather than placing their attention on making money?
Well, I have a short answer to that, and I can.
Oh, you can go first. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. My experience is that often the business starts when it starts, and that's most burning brightly, the goal and purpose, and that's why it grows. But what tends to happen as they grow is the owner gets some losses or distractions, or they don't organise themselves enough so that all their staff, as they get bigger, still have the same purpose. So that's sort of my very short answer, is that successful businesses do have it right at the start. It can get diluted as they grow. That's been my observation. Can.
And I'd like to add to that if I can. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. That, you know, as you were saying before, Oisín, that thoughts are contagious. And I've bumped into nests of people where, you know, like attracts like. You get nests of people where they're all in it for the money. There was, I once attended a dinner with a group of people. They were all of one ethnic persuasion, I won't say which. And the topic of conversation was who had pulled the biggest rip-off in the past week. And they toasted the person who had cheated one of the clients the most. And he was given a round of applause. Yet you go to the other side where people with very fine ideals and good intentions and just are passionate about their product, and they break down walls and burn their way to produce a better product and get it out, seem to attract similar people. So there's a bit of choice here in who you make your friends. And unfortunately, people watch others. And sometimes they're impressed by flashy cars and gold bangles and gold teeth and diamonds. And they want to do what that person does. Well, you better take a close look at how they attained that before you follow them. In the end, too many people, I think, get caught up in chasing money, and it's a dead end. What do you think of that, Oisín? You agree?
Yeah, I agree. But that being said, you've got to, you know, you do need money to buy nice cars and things like this. So it's
nothing wrong with that. That's fine.
Yeah, it's a balance, you know, and it's a balance that I still work on to this day, you know. But the perfect blend is where you're making fantastic money, delivering great services and products, and it aligns with your purpose. And that's what I'm constantly striving to achieve with every business I do, the people that I play with. I pay a lot of attention to who I play with to make sure that we're on the same page. Because if those purposes aren't aligned, it ain't going to fly. I can tell you one little quick story along this line, which is I was at a potential client's place one time. They were in the property space. And I was talking to one of the directors and I asked him, I said, what's your product? You know, what's the valuable thing that you exchange with your customers? And I was expecting something like, you know, really good houses that people could live in or something like that. And he said, money. I went, oh, okay, like that. I want money. So all he wanted was money. Yeah. I quickly excused myself and got out of there. And I found out a couple of months later, it was indeed a very truthful answer because he was embezzling and he ripped off the other partner. He got these big checks. I think it was $250,000 for some, you know, from a client, and he ran off with the money. So anyway, enough about that. Is there another question?
Okay, well, it's definitely not about the money, is it, gentlemen?
Well, but money's good as long as you do it the right way. Help people, do something you love. You make more, just like Peter covered. It's much more interesting.
I make lots of money. She makes lots of money. We love it. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's a right way to get it and a wrong way to get it.
Absolutely. Okay, gentlemen, I've got a couple of questions on the chat box. I'd like to open up to one of the participants. His name's Lucas Camarata. Lucas, would you like to give a wave and come up on the screen and perhaps ask the gentleman your question that's on the chat box?
Yeah, so this one's for Peter and Oisín. I just wanted to find out what is actually the best way to find out how valued your product or service actually is, because in some industries you can just tell from the people's reaction and things like that, but sometimes, particularly maybe the service industries and things like that, it might be hard to actually work out if people like what you're giving them or how to improve it. How do you figure that out?
I'll let Oisín go first on that one.
Yeah, well, the simple answer is just surveys. And the definition of a survey, I know you're kind of asking this, but the definition of a survey, if you know, some people think it's getting out a clipboard and Some people think it's, you know, one of those happy smiley faces, and that is a form of survey. But the real definition of, if you go back to the root meaning of it, it's to examine closely. So this is part of your marketing hat, you know. Someone in the business, and it's often the business owner, if it's a small business, needs to be looking closely at different things to find this out. And sometimes it's work. There is no quick answer. I can give you one way I did it. But to give you an idea, you can actually just, a type of survey is looking at what people are buying in itself. One of my companies did kitchens back in the day, and we were promoting out into Brighton and all the places where we thought there was all this money. We were promoting in the areas where we were over in the West, that's where the factory was. And I looked at all of the recent sales, and I found out that they were all from the local area. So I didn't even need to, I knew people were valuing the service because they were buying it, and we weren't particularly cheap. We were mid-range, definitely. So what it was just telling me is that these people value our service. So I started putting all of our promotion money into that area. And of course, what happened? We grew, we got more customers. So that's just one example of how you can survey. You can survey your business. So one of the simplest ways is pick up the phone and talk to your customers. It's like so simple. Just ask them what's good, what's not. So Peter and I could go on for honestly a while about this. There's a whole way to do this, but the simplest way is talk to people, actually interact with people. You'll find out faster than anything else I know of. So there you go.
Well, what you said before actually did clarify it a little bit, because in construction, what often happens is, because you're always fighting for the cheapest price, someone could give you their price and you could go, wow, that's amazing. But you never tell them that. You always tell them it's way too high. It's way too high. And it becomes actually a bit of a dirty game a little bit. And sometimes it becomes a bit frustrating. But yeah, it can be a bit hard to work out when people are doing that, whether they actually like what you're doing or not. And it makes it really hard to actually do your job, honestly.
Right, but this is why you need to be very clear on what your business does, what it costs to do business, you know, all that stuff I was talking about, being very clear, because, you know, if you're going below a point where you're not going to make any money, you know, where you're going to, you know, it costs you X amount and you're going to sell it for that. I mean, that's just silly. So, and, you know, your clients need to want you to exist. You know, the best clients are really happy to exchange goodwill and money and things with you. They want you to keep going. So if you've got people who are just trying to get you down, and that's all they care about, you know, it's a very short-term view. Maybe they're not clients you want.
Thanks for that.
Peter, would you like to say something on that?
Very, very briefly. In my presentation, I said that the first question to be answered in all planning is, what is the desired product? In other words, what do you want to produce? That will also be desired by others. So you have to get an answer to both of those questions. And the usual, sometimes you need to have a list of things that you might like to produce, not just get fixed on one, but have several and test them by survey, just as Oisín was saying. And then you pick the one that rates most highly on both those lists, your list and the public's list. And you can make it and you'll enjoy making it and you can love it and you can sell it and you can be very confident about it because you know it's just absolutely wonderful. And other people also want it. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, perfect.
And here's one last thing on this is if you,
okay.
One last thing. No, I think this will probably help people is if you're going to do a hot dog, you know, like you're going to do one of those mobile food vans, right? And you know, and people go, okay, what do we, you know, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. But there's one thing you need to know before you get into all your marketing and this, that, and the other. Well, what do you think you need when you're starting a food van?
Food, ingredients, whatever.
No. Hungry customers.
Oh.
So you see, that would be, where are the hungry customers? You know, that would be the first thing to find, right? You could be.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that.
It's okay. It's a bit of a tricky question. Anyway, it can be that simple, you know. All right, so enough from me.
Okay, thank you to both of you.
Thanks, guys.
So We haven't had dinner and we are going to get hungry in a minute. All right. If Karan can just give us a wave, he's one of the participants to this evening. Karan has a question for either Oisín and Peter. So Karan, can you kindly announce yourself and ask the question to the experts?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's Karan here. Just like a quick question. So what's the best medium to reach out to your potential clients or buyers in like the situation, like, you know, the whole virtual environment? Open to anyone. And
I think you said, what is the best way to reach them? Is that
yeah.
what? Yeah, okay. You can go first on that one, Oisín. It's really a bit more your specialty.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this comes up a lot because what happens is you've got business owners all day long getting sold by Facebook and Instagram that they should be doing a Facebook thing or doing a funnel or doing a this and doing a that, right? Who's heard that stuff, you know? The only place to advertise is Facebook, you know? Well, look, Facebook is an amazing place to find customers if you work at it and so on. However, you need to find your customers wherever they are. And too often people are trying to bypass doing the hard work. So let's just go to the quick fix. Oh, there's a magic funnel on the internet will handle it for me. So too often I find people avoiding actual human interaction. Like a restaurant, for example, should have a list of its past clients, especially if you've got a membership thing. You know, one of this, if you were hit by, you know, these restrictions, as you would be because you can't open your restaurant, one of the things you could do would be to literally call your customers or text them, see how they're going. You see, it can be very, very simple things like this that will then, oh wow, you're still open, yeah, cool, yeah, we're still doing delivery, away we go. Emailings, all this sort of thing, but the personal contact is so often missed. It really is. So you need to just basically do the work to find out wherever they are. There's no quick answer to it. But it's not just social media. There's a massive over focus on that point.
Okay.
Can I just add to that, please? That you also need to know where your customers look. Where do they get their information from? You know, if you're dealing with people over 70, you're probably not going to reach very many of them on Facebook. And believe me, that can be an enormous business, servicing people over 70 who've got a lot of money. I had a client recently who provided services to builders. He was a plasterer, and he did very big plastering jobs. And he'd been sold Facebook promotion. And he'd spent all this money and he was doing, you know, research into how do you interest people with Facebook. Now, can you imagine builders employing a plasterer to do their contract work? And he does big things like schools and big factories and so on, office buildings with plaster.
Correct.
Can you imagine the builders finding the plasterer via Facebook with a happy little chat? You get it? So you really got to think with it. The way builders do business is you go and see them and you take them down the pub and you talk football, and then they think you're a great bloke. And when they see your name on the next tender, oh, I better give this guy a go. He's a good bloke.
Yeah.
So it's different strokes. If you're selling lipstick or eyeliner, yeah, Facebook would be a great place. Food can be too, yes. Restaurants, sure. So I think you got to just see where is your audience looking.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you
That
so much.
helped you, Karan? All good?
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, Shashi, do you have a question that you'd like to ask the experts?
He's got his.
I think the way Karan was asking, I think he was thinking of something very specific kind of product or services. and in that specific product or services, how to identify where the clients will be, and especially under these current circumstances, that how we can locate them, how we can approach them, and then tell, all right, I'm thinking of this kind of services or this kind of product to supply your industry. That's what I think he was trying to come up with.
Yeah, that's correct, sir. So, I would like, it's just, I guess it's getting late. So I would love to take this offline. So if we could connect to our LinkedIn or something like that, that'll be easier for us to communicate throughout.
Good idea.
We can.
Great idea.
All right. Well, let's do that. For now, let's continue and just wrap it up. There's couple more questions, and then
I
we
just
can
shared
close.
something with Aqeel. If he want to share that on my behalf with everybody else, I just share in chat box with Aqeel.
Okay, that's fine.
So
This
if you can share.
Sure, Shashi. Shashi wrote to me, valuables you carry may impress some, but the values one carries aspire and motivates many.
As Oisin and Peter was talking about the values which we carry. Yes, we may go in Rolex watch or Mercedes, but they may impress few people. But if somebody is helpful, honest, trustworthy, many people will go for those kind of peoples.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. Absolutely. I'm astounded really by some very, very wealthy people, spectacularly wealthy, just how humble they can be.
Yes.
And they're very interested in you. They make a friend. Lindsay Fox was one of the richest people in Australia. I was flying to Japan, and the man sitting next to me, we began a conversation. He was wearing jeans, a t-shirt, and had a plastic watch. And we got talking, and I said, why are you going to Japan? He says, well, Japan has a very good airport, and I'm going there to study it. I said, why? He says, my father and I want to buy an airport. You may be aware that Lindsay Fox was going to buy the airport at Laverton. Yeah, that one. He was going to buy that airport when I was sitting next to his son on a plane. And he was just an unbelievably pleasant person, very interested in why I was going to Japan. We had a lovely chat. As I said, he was wearing a plastic Swatch watch, buy for $15, cheap sheet t-shirt, jeans and sneakers, and he's going to be buying an airport. So, you got to like people like that. And you're probably aware that his father, Lindsay, gives millions to charity and helps an awful lot of people. He enjoys his money. And they do well. They do very well, these people.
Also, it is.
Something else, sorry, just as a comment. I have seen in the past, there are some people who, that even though they probably don't believe in what they're selling, they still make a tremendous amount of money. Maybe they know that that what they're doing is bad for other people. But I guess the thing is that those people are never happy. And, when their time on this earth comes to an end, what is going to happen to them? You know what I mean? So that's important as well.
And also they can make money for a short time, but they tend to lose it. They tend to lose it along with their wife, their kids, and all their friends.
That's right. Yeah.
Everything in one hit. Easy come, easy go.
That's right.
All right, we've got one more question, and then we can, I'll pass it back to Aqeel. Either gentleman can answer this. I think it's more for Peter. You talked about the need for correct planning, but did not explain how this is done. What is the method or technique that you use to help a business owner develop a personal or business plan, Peter?
Well, that's a question like what's in the Encyclopedia Britannica answer in one word. There's quite a bit to it, and really requires some one-on-one with the person to really find out what their interests are, what they really want to do. It's a whole standard process. But essentially, at the end of that, they have an extremely detailed plan And it is like I began with that university study. You need the plan, the goal, and all the little steps on how you're going to attain it. All need to be worked out. It's quite a bit of doing. It surprisingly doesn't take terribly long, but it needs to be done. So maybe next time if we come back, I can talk a bit more about that.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you
Thank
back.
you.
It looks like it's for another Zoom.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Aqeel, back to you. We're in closing.
Thank you, Maria. And I think all the questions are answered. And let's